Hi, this is Miguel Guanipa, and this is People of Interest, a show that is premised on the idea that everyone has a story to tell. My goal is to invite people that have stories in their lives, like everyone does, and share them with the people out there, and have a little fun with that. I was thinking just briefly in terms of story of I work in the leather trade, and I get to deal with some people that buy antiques and deal with antiques and those kinds of things, collectibles and so forth. And I recently heard a story of one of the guys that deals with the antiques. That he was going through a thrift store kind of situation, and he found this watch, and he bought it for $100. And later on, when he did a little research, he found out that the watch had belonged to a kamikaze pilot. But I was wondering. I know a lot of people wonder when I say that. Well, how come it didn't burn up? So I'm guessing probably the kamikaze pilot left it somewhere before he went on his mission. Anyway, that gave a value of $15,000 to the watch, just by the fact that it had that story attached to it. And it occurred to me that the watch itself, the physical watch, wasn't what was worth $15,000. What was worth $15,000 was the story behind the watch. And so that's the idea behind this show, how important stories are in our lives. And today I have my guest is Faye Hurley. Faye is she's an illustrator, and she's a surface pattern designer and graphic artist. And she's a native of New England. She went to Mass College of Art and Design, graduated from there with a fashion design degree. And she has, after a while working in corporate world, she decided to open up her own company. The company is called Olive and Company, named after one of her daughters. And well, let me introduce you. Faye, would you come in? Hear the clapping? How you doing, love?
Good.
I forgot to mention, Faye is also one of my daughters. I have 3 daughters. She's my older one, and she's one of my favorite daughters. So, how are you today, Faye?
Doing good.
Good?
Good, yep.
Good, all right. So, how was your day today? What did you do today? Anything exciting, or?
What did I do today?
Yeah, besides fret about the show.
Let's see, I had some doctor's appointments. I'll just throw it out there. We got some exciting news. I have number 3 baby coming on. So, so I had some doctor's appointments for that, and
Oh, so you went to the doctor for that?
yes.
Faye was telling me yesterday, actually, about this bit of great news. And
Yeah.
so I said the best way to find out is to go to the doctor. So they
Yep,
confirmed.
So it's official.
Yeah.
6 weeks. I know it's way
6
too early
weeks.
to be telling anybody, and here I am telling television.
Telling the world, if the world is out there.
Husband's gonna kill me.
Oh.
But did that, and I had some business phone calls, and that's pretty much it. Not very exciting.
So what you doing right now? What you're focusing on in terms of your art? What is some of some of the focus that you have on the things that you're doing with your art these days?
So I have my own two businesses, really. I work as a freelance illustrator for companies doing artwork on home goods and clothing. I do the illustrations, like the patterns for those products. And after having my first daughter, I started Olive and Company, which is my stationery business. So I make greeting cards and art prints and anything I could put my artwork on. That's Olive and Company.
Here's an interesting thing. We went to what was that? Marshalls? What was it that we went yesterday? TJ Maxx.
Yes.
Home Goods. Which one were we in
I
yesterday?
think it was Marshalls. It was
Marshalls.
Marshalls, yeah.
And so Faye did some wallpaper designs.
Gift wrap.
Gift wrap
Yep.
designs. And they're out there, but you do them because you do them freelance. Somebody else puts their tag on them, but it's really your work.
I don't know if I'm
Basically.
supposed to.
Well, you don't have to say that. Actually, you don't have to say that. But I just thought, look at all this beautiful work. And I was proudly showing it to some people. I said, hey, my daughter did that. And I actually showed it to somebody that we saw at Marshall's, and said, hey, Faye did that. And they thought that I was joking with them. So that's how gifted she is.
Yep.
But
It's pretty weird actually because working as a freelancer, sometimes you wish that you could put your own name on the work that you're doing, but can't do that with a lot of the work that I do because the people are paying for the artwork, and so and then often another brand will slap their even though they didn't design it or anything.
that's okay.
But
we don't have to.
it's fine. It's
Oh, all
just
right. We can talk about the
it's
good
just
news.
an interesting way it works.
There's
but-
some of your work. Some of your work back there.
Yep.
Look. That's pretty good stuff there.
Those are some of my gouache paintings that ended up getting translated to greeting cards for my business. So
What's the funnest part of the work that you do? When you do the drawings, what do you find the most fun?
I think getting inspired and creating the artwork. That's why I do what I do, because that's what I love. So and seeing my vision, come through after I've drawn it that's really exciting. And then I guess beyond that, seeing the final product is really awesome.
So when I was, well, I think you were like maybe 9 or 10, if I remember. You correct me when I tell you the story. I remember you were doing a pencil drawing, and so you did this little drawing that had a few objects in the drawing in pencil, and they were very, very realistic. And I thought, wow, that's pretty. Do you remember that?
Yes,
I said, that's
I do.
pretty
Yes.
amazing. And you spent your time with it, but you did it freehand in black and white. It was really beautiful. And I thought, wow, do you remember that?
Yeah, that was
Remember-
no, I remember because we were learning trompe-l'oeil. Trompe-l'oeil, I think that's how you
Oh,
pronounce it.
You
We
want to
were
explain
learning,
trompe-l'oeil to?
which is a technique where you draw something that's supposed to look like you can reach out and grab it.
Okay. So that was a homework.
That
part
was
of
a homework assignment in high
Oh.
school. So yeah.
That was really good. So that's like, by then you already kind of had settled, this is really what I want to do, kind of.
Oh yeah, way before that,
Way before that? Well, you tell me. I don't
when
know.
I was, I don't know, 2 or 3, I was drawing.
Yeah.
So
You remember that?
of course I remember that. Yes, I remember.
On the walls? You remember when you were doing that?
No, that I don't remember. But my mom was my preschool and kindergarten teacher and my art teacher when I was really little.
Right,
and
right.
so
She homeschooled.
Yep, but
Yeah.
also at the
Covenant.
private school that I went
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
So, and that's always been encouraged by you and mom. So,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much always knew.
Well, some people ask us, what do you do if you want to encourage your children to draw? So I don't know if there's a secret. I think some people just have an ingrained talent. Other people like to draw, and also I think you can develop that talent. But one thing that we used to do was because we were artists also, we would leave just paper around the house and pencil if you wanted to sit down and draw or whatever, and you would do that. And so you
Yeah.
did that. You did a lot of that.
There was always art supplies in the house. I didn't really think that was an odd thing. It was pretty normal. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if you could share, speaking of drawing when you were younger in school, it's a little bit of a humorous story because I remember you got in trouble for your artistic talent one time. In
One time?
Maybe
think
the
it was
one time that I
multiple
heard,
times.
the one that I heard about it. So what was that all about? If you want to share it.
Are you
We
thinking about
keep
soap?
it PG, huh?
Are you thinking about soap?
Soap. So some drawing, you were doing drawings, kids wanted you to draw something. And so you drew something, and the teacher came in on the blackboard?
I gotta share which story are you talking about?
Which one is the soap one? I don't know which one is the soap.
Well, I was remembering that.
She got in trouble a lot of times.
Yes,
Apparently.
there's a few times. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was in like third or fourth grade, and we went into the girls' bathroom. I was with other kids. It wasn't just me.
Remember, this is a PG-13 show.
Yeah,
so
this is PG.
All right.
And so, anyways, the teachers had come in later after we had been in there, and they found that there was soap suds all over the window. I mean, the mirrors in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so someone had drawn all kinds of pictures in the mirror, and of course I was the one that got in trouble
You
because
were the talented one.
I was the one that was always drawing. So
Oh,
so they caught me.
I think that's the story. I think
So
that's the story.
I have a few, but
You have
yeah.
more?
no,
We got
that's
a whole
good
hour.
one. That's a good one. We'll stick with that one.
All right, love. That's good. You also, I wanted to ask you actually. I think I asked you this one time about you've been influenced by other artists also.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of your daughters is named after an artist,
Yep, Frida Kahlo. Frida.
Frida.
Yeah.
So, what are other artists that, past and present, that have been influential in your drawing ability and so forth?
Well, I think
Inspirational.
Before I decided to go into fashion design at Mass Art, I was going to be a painter, which I
Yep.
already had been practicing painting, and I really loved oil painting. And I remember going to the museum and seeing Caravaggio.
Caravaggio.
And
oh.
so I was very heavily influenced by his work. And then also I really loved, actually, as I transitioned into fashion, which was kind of a random direction to go, at least it felt that way, but I feel like I love color and I love texture, so it really kind of works together, all of that, the fashion and fabric and painting, it all goes together. But I had seen Gustav Klimt in the museum as well. It's always whenever I went to the museum, and I got to see the artwork up close and read the stories behind the artists.
What does he? I can't recall. What does he usually? What is his medium?
He does the mosaic kind of.
Oh,
The
is it
most
the one
famous
with
is the Kiss.
There's a woman and a man, and they have the big robe.
The
that's
big
got
long
all the,
robes,
oh,
and
okay,
there's a
that's
lot
very
of
popular,
gold
yeah.
flake in there, and
Oh,
that
okay.
influenced a project in my fashion class,
Mm-hmm.
where we had to put together an imaginary fashion collection, and it was heavily influenced by Klimt, who I had been influenced by as a painter previously, and so it kind of, yeah, I'd say as far as, older artists, those were a couple, and then lately some contemporary people that I follow, who are more in the illustration world, Lisa Congdon and Andy Miller, who I don't know if you know about them, but Lisa Congdon is probably, I think she's in her 50s, and she discovered that she could be an artist only, I don't know, it wasn't that long ago. It was later in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was very inspired by her story, because I think in today's day, at least my generation, I think, feels pressure to have success at a young age. And I definitely felt that pressure. I thought that I would have made it by a certain point, and seeing her story really encouraged me that it doesn't matter when that happens, and success looks different anyway for everybody.
So probably maybe defining success, I guess, would be
Yeah.
a point there.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, and Andy Miller is an illustrator. He calls himself Andy Pizza because he likes pizza, but he does a podcast that's very inspiring that I listen to quite a bit. And he's just very encouraging, and I love his artwork. So
when you were thinking about that notion of the pressure that's this generation has of the quick, immediate success and whatever that you see on the startup sometimes in the internet, or you hear the stories. Oh, I made my first pin, and
And it
2 weeks
exploded.
later I had 1 million, and so,
Yeah.
which maybe I'm sure it happens here and there, but how did you, what is that stabilizes you when you hear those stories, or you think in those terms of, this is really not something that I should, be tempted to, or feel so much pressure over this? What is it that brings you back to reality, in a sense, where you can say what you just told me, where you said, yes, well, it doesn't have to happen like that. I have my own story. I have my own life. What brings
Yeah.
you back to that point of balance, basically?
I don't know, that's a tough question. I'd say God brings me back there, honestly, because I've learned that His story for me is not necessarily the way that I might picture it. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does make sense, yeah.
so I've learned to lean in and trust that my journey is my journey. I don't know. And also, I have two kids. I have 2 kids, and that grounds me.
You're gonna
That
get more
keeps it
grounded
real.
in a
I'm
few
going to get a
months.
little more grounded, but it keeps things real, and learning to enjoy those moments with my kids while they're still small. I think if I had the success that I think I wanted, I wouldn't have that time to spend with them and enjoy it, and my family, my husband. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That reminds me a little bit about when I was unemployed. I was unemployed for a little bit, and whenever you're in a place like that, when you're consulting with people and talking to people and trying to find out where they were, how they dealt with that situation, and part of the reason was because I worked for so long for a particular company that I kind of identified that was me. That was my who I was, and so I had difficulty transitioning. Oh, well, what do I do now? But the point of my story is that I heard a lot of stories. I heard a lot of people. Well, yeah, this happened to me. Oh, and then I met this person, and then they found this job for me. Oh no, and then I was walking in a bus, and so you get caught up in all these people's stories. Like what I remember when you said that, and I thought I have my own story, so I shouldn't just lean on those stories of other people, because my story is going to be completely different. And you mentioned God, and said God is going to work with me in my life, in my story. He's going to do what He does with me. I'm Miguel, you're Faye. He's not going to work with you as He works exactly the way He worked in Susan's life or Bob's life. It's going to be Faye's story.
And I think the more that I lean into that, I realize that I don't want somebody else's story, which I don't think anybody wants anyone else's story, because there's trials and tribulations with everybody's life, and I think, and that's where gratitude comes in as well.
Well, that's interesting also you mentioned that, because you say you don't want someone else's stories. And I feel that one of the traps in this, not necessarily this generation, but I think humanity, is that they concentrate on having somebody else's story. I want to have that person's story. That looks really exciting. And you could possibly miss out on the things that are part of your story that are very, very good things.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to think about a little bit about get more into maybe character building. And I was thinking I'm thinking if you could share with me and us, us going back to the story, look into your past, or maybe even your present, and share a story where you had a challenge, a big challenge, and you walked through that challenge, you walked through that valley or journey or whatever, and you came up again. And I'm sure there's more in life in the future, but just want you to think about one for us and share with us what it was, and what is that you learned from it, from that challenge, from that journey.
I have a more recent one, probably not from the past.
That's great. Is it one from what you told us yesterday? So is that starting, or is that another one?
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right,
but I have a lot of them lately because as I have a young family and 2 little kids, and I'm growing 2 businesses, and that can be extremely challenging. And so when I had, it's wonderful too. It's not just challenging, but when I had my second daughter, I really struggled with balancing home life, making sure that the house was picked up, dinner was on the table, my kids were still alive, my business was running, and that I was bringing in, money as well. And so I was just having a hard time with that, and I was fighting. I don't know how I should. I don't want to just sound like I'm a bad mom, but I
Well,
was
I have more
fighting.
here a couple of weeks ago, so I can talk to him about this if you want.
Okay. No, I was just fighting my responsibilities as a mom because I wanted to just go in my office and draw. That's it. And so I wasn't really fighting it. I was enjoying it as well, but it was an everyday battle of, when am I going to get time to work on my business, because I love what I do, and I love my children too. But it was hard because our oldest was, struggling with having another baby in the house, and the baby wasn't sleeping, and so so that was just a really hard time for me. And so I remember going to my first physical since moving into Worcester and with my new doctor, and I was just kind of venting to her, and she just laid it out for me. She's like, listen, this is life, and this is hard. It's all hard, but it's really wonderful, and you gotta work through it. And she told me a little bit about her story. She wasn't like trying to make me feel bad or anything, but just a little dose of reality, but also comfort, that I'm not alone in these kinds of struggles. And so I went home with a fresh perspective, and she also said to me, she said, when the kids are at daycare or school or they're sleeping, you do your work. And when they're home and when they're awake, you devote your time to them. This is the only time that you have with them. And so I was able to kind of compartmentalize my time in my head and allow myself time to breathe and enjoy life where I was. And so since then, I don't feel that stress anymore. So I don't know if that's.
So the nurse gave you a wake up call.
She did. It was a good wake up call. She said, "Listen, I got a twin kids. They were like 8 months old. They don't sleep, and I got a toddler that's, another toddler that's giving me trouble here with this, but we get through it." So,
have you seen that nurse since then? Or?
The doctor? No.
Yeah, no.
No, I would like to
Maybe
tell
it was
her.
like an angel that just dropped
Perhaps.
in. Yeah.
But it was a good experience, and it really just, I learned to be more grateful for the things that I had in front of me. I think and that's just something that I've struggled with as a creative, always looking for, the next step in my career, the next big thing. And so being a mom and a wife is more important than any of that. My family is more important, and so that I got over that inner battle. So.
Well, that's pretty good. Another thing I was thinking, this is probably totally off. We do have, let me show you, actually, do you want to show some of your work?
Sure.
If you guys want to, this is some of the, what is this, stationery thing that you do?
This is a art piece that I made for the city of Worcester, for a shop in Worcester.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see, but.
Why is that? Oh,
I
this
don't
is
know,
like,
it's
this
weird.
looks like transparent all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
it's not though.
Oh, okay. And this one here?
And this is the Blackstone Valley. It's a map I made for.
Oh, there's the
It's an
camera.
art print also.
Blackstone Valley, and where
Yeah.
can they go and if they wanted to
Well, the Worcester art prints are kind of exclusively being sold at Worcester Wares. It's a shop in Worcester, and the Blackstone Valley. You can purchased through my Etsy shop. So
Okay. Well, here's an interesting thing. Actually, another thing. We're talking about artists that have influenced you, and I was thinking also about how about people maybe that have influenced you in your life. But one thing that I was actually thinking about in those terms was if you remember somebody that you met in the past, and it was just a quick thing, you met that person, and it wasn't anything at the moment that really impressed you a lot. But later on in life, you look back and say, "Oh, that was really interesting that I met that person, and that was really very fortuitous that thing happened." Well, it could be an event or it could be a person, but something that in hindsight you look back and you say, "Oh, that's amazing that that happened. I wouldn't have thought that that was going to have that impact on me later on in life."
I don't know about an event. I know a person that was my art teacher in high school, which as a high school student, I think nobody ever really appreciates their teachers as much as they should in the moment. And well, I always appreciated him, but
What was his name again? You told
Mr. Morrell.
Mr. Morale.
Mr. Morrell.
That's a Newton Country Day.
At Newton Country Day.
Yep.
And the art class was, they were heavy on academics, and so I was one of maybe 4 or 5 kids who actually took the art classes. But Mr. Morrell was actually a really amazing painter himself, but he was probably one of the most humble people I've ever met, and the most encouraging teacher. And I'll never forget him, but he really impacted my life. So, yeah, he was a huge encourager of my art, and he always pushed me to keep striving to get better and challenge myself. So.
Well, that's good. What was that other teacher? There was another teacher in that other school that one time you did that Pharaoh painting. And he came over and he looked at it and he was measuring and says, "Oh, this is right. This fits right."
Tell the story.
It's the same guy that drew the eye when we had the Covenant Fair in Arlington. And what he did was he did a sign of Covenant School, Covenant Church. And in the middle was like this big brother eye looking at people staring at them.
I don't remember who that. He was measuring it. Why?
Well, he was looking at it and saying, "Oh, this is good. This falls right into place." The
he was
nose and
checking
the
my
eyes.
artwork?
Yeah, checking your artwork and whatever. So
I was like in 7th grade.
you don't remember that?
No, you must have remembered it though.
So Mr. Morale, he was a great encourager of your work.
Yeah.
Like as a person too. Like
As a person, he was just a very kind and humble person, and he wasn't overly flashy or anything. He was just there as a really great support and encouragement to me. So.
Do you remember one specific moment when that took place? Something that you remember? Oh yeah, I remember when Mr. Morale was.
I mean, I remember when he was teaching me oil painting, and he thought that it was really important that I learned how to make the paint. So, like the old masters did,
mix it?
like from the powder, and he knew all of that, the detail, the fundamentals, and actually that is something that I carried on, into my college career, was feeling that it was really important to learn the basics and the fundamentals before exploring other things.
Do you want to do painting again, Faye?
I always want to do painting again. It's a little difficult with, kids right now, but because I'm messy and
It's messy.
It's messy.
Painting is messy.
And it takes a lot of time and, so, but I do at some point. So, and it would be oil painting. That's what I'd want to go back to.
Why don't you try to do maybe a little bit, well, I guess you don't have a lot of time right now, so it's probably maybe when you're around 63, 64.
Perhaps
the kids
when
are.
I retire, yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm thinking, What is it that now you talked about that teacher being very inspirational to you, and would you ever like to teach or do something like that, or is that something that you would like to do, or?
Yeah, I've thought about it before because I do admire people who have success in their career and they take the time to pass that on
Mm-hmm.
to other people who want to follow in their footsteps. I think that's a good thing to do. I don't think I'm a very good teacher,
How do
but
you
I
know
haven't
that?
tried it enough. I've done it a couple times with, for a few workshops, but I think if I got practice, I could do it.
You did it. How old were the pupils? Were you that
It
you?
was mixed. Oh, I
Yes.
did. I did teach kids at one point. I went back to mass art and I taught a summer class in fashion. So
How did that go?
it was okay.
You was okay.
It's a lot of kids.
Is it too intimidating, or is it just the disorder, or is it like you just don't feel you're cut out for it, or?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm totally cut out for it.
So I mean, what would be like if they gave you a class of 15-year-olds and you were to teach them,
I would want to do teenagers.
no teenagers? Teenagers are nice people, but she just doesn't want to.
No.
Well, let's say, what would you prefer, like young kids or adults?
I think little kids, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you were to teach a few young kids, you had a group with 12, let's say 7, whatever, and you wanted to teach them art, what would be the core of what you actually want to teach them besides just learning how to draw? What would you want to instill on them that you think would be most important so that they can grow up to be real artists, not just in terms of their talent, but in terms of the spirit of the artist?
I think having freedom in their artwork and not feeling restricted by anything, really. I think it's good to teach, like I said, I think it's very important to learn the fundamentals, but I think after that it's important to have the freedom to break those rules and really express yourself and find out what it is that you do best and what your personality, it's you coming out in the artwork, and I think that's a way to find yourself too.
So that probably would apply to almost anything then. I mean, if you were to teach, it's an important
It's
lesson,
true.
but if you were to teach anything,
Yeah.
like the core thing that seems would be important to you, and I think would be important to any profession, is to find that freedom. Do you feel that you in your life or your career as an artist that you have reached somewhere in that freedom, or somewhere in there where you have touched upon it, or
Yeah,
you like?
I think I struggled for a long time, partly because I was looking at other people's work, feeling a pressure that was all in my head, that I had to have a specific way that I did things or a style that was, that people could point out and say, that's Faye. Which, ironically, my artwork does do that now, but I think because I was struggling I was focusing on trying to find that style, I was just kind of all over the place. And once I was able to just draw and just paint and not try and think, well, it's got to be this certain style or I got to use this technique, I just kind of let it free flow, and then it naturally, organically transformed into my own style that people do say, that's Faye. So
What do you do? What do you do to kind of refresh that motivation or that gift that you have in you for as an artist? What do you tend to gravitate to that kind of brings you, inspires you, and helps you be more creative? And what do you do consciously to do that? Actually?
consciously,
Yeah.
Pinterest.
Or do you do it? Do you do it unconsciously? That's unconscious.
Yeah. I don't know, getting out, and it's funny, it doesn't sound like it sounds like it would do the opposite, but looking at other artwork, whether it's at the museum or sometimes it is Pinterest, and I get inspired by. It doesn't have to be artwork, but it can be artwork of other forms, not just other illustration. I like to look at other paintings. I like to look at, you know, home decor and architecture, and I like to read. You know, I don't know. I get inspired by a lot of things, but that refreshes me. I think sometimes stepping away from artists that I follow on Instagram is a good thing. That helps me to kind of, sometimes I get boxed in when I look at that. But, you know, looking at older artists in the museum, that's somehow feels like a different thing.
How do you feel when because I notice this is an interesting phenomenon when you're an artist or you have a talent like this, and people look at it and they look at you differently,
What?
or yeah, they go like, oh, I can't, like for example, Troy just said, I can't even draw a straight line. And they look at your artwork and say, wow, that's amazing. How do you do that? Or how do you feel? Because to you, it's a good challenge, but it's not like you're sweating when you're doing
Yeah.
this work. You know what I mean? So
How do I feel when people say things
yeah,
like that?
how do you feel about when you're approached like that? What do you think? Like,
I feel awkward. I feel really awkward.
sorry, Troy.
No, no, not. I didn't feel awkward
Not
then,
awkward, not
but I don't know. It's uncomfortable. I don't know how to respond. I guess because I think a lot of people put certain talents on a pedestal, and they think, well, if you don't have any of these talents, then you know you don't have any talent, and so. I think sometimes people look at that and they think, oh, well, you know, they put that up on a pedestal, and I don't.
But you started, what I'm thinking is also, you started drawing when you were very young. So something in you said, start doing this. And you started doing it. And so you've been practicing for a long time.
Yeah.
So do you think that talent or the artist, and I'm almost like, maybe I don't want to answer the question
Talent
for
versus
you.
skill.
Skill and, or inborn, or, I mean, do you feel that you could just, you know, I mean, Troy could draw more than a straight line if he started?
I think so.
when
I think that really where it's. That's a really hard question, because sometimes I don't know, talent can be very subjective too, because there's all kinds of artists out there, and not everyone likes this person's art, but they like this person's art. So you could say that this person's talented and somebody doesn't like their art. So that's, I don't know, but I think it really has to come from an inner desire to do that. And then, so people who say that, I think if you had an interest and you took the time to try it out and take a few art classes, that if you found that you did have more interest as you did it, I think of course you can acquire that skill and talent.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the artist that I was talking about earlier, Lisa Congdon,
Mm-hmm.
she kind of never considered herself an artist, and then she started drawing and pursuing that, and I think she felt that because she wasn't born drawing, that, well, maybe I don't qualify, and I don't think that's true.
What is like the fundamental, I know these are hard questions, but they just come into my mind right now, but maybe they're not. Might not be
little
hard.
hard.
Maybe you're already thinking about it, but what would be like the fundamental message that you want to convey through your art when you do art, aside from when you go, if TJ Maxx called you or somebody says, oh, we want you to draw a bunny with a hat and whatever, so you have a specific design in mind, so you don't have to really overthink, except unless it has to do with the technique or the style or whatever. Well, so I'm talking something a little deeper when it comes to your own art, your moments when want to draw, and maybe you incorporate that also into your
Yeah.
jobs. But what is that? What is that you want to convey? Essentially, maybe there's more than one thing.
It's very simple. It's not very deep.
I didn't say it have to be
But
deep.
joy is really.
Oh, okay.
I think I want people to be happy when they look at my art. It's not very.
This
a
looks
little
pretty
cliche.
It does.
But-
This is back. Look, we'll point at the green screen. Anyway, go ahead, love.
That's it. It's really not
Joy.
that deep. I don't know. I think.
That's very deep. So when you're doing your art, maybe deep inside you is something that as you move and create, something that's saying to you. I mean, do you smile when you're doing your work? And
It's a little.
are you like grinning in front of the computer?
No, I mean, no, usually not. But
Different kind of joy.
I will also. So for me, things that I think are beautiful bring me joy, and so maybe that explains a little bit more. And so I always want to create something that I think is beautiful. And so hopefully somebody else will think it's beautiful and they will enjoy looking at it and enjoy either putting it in their home or using it. And usually the people who do buy my things, when I get to see them buying it, when I'm there, they're very excited about it. I feel, and that's something that makes me really happy, is that they don't just pick it up, oh, I'll just get this. It's, I really love this, I want to buy this. I'm going to, put this in my house, or I'm going to use this journal, and it's beautiful, so because those little things make me happy too. So it's just kind of passing that along.
And it brings you joy too, also to hear that somebody appreciates
Yes.
that and sees that. Okay. I remember a few years ago, I think it was maybe after you finished school, and you, I may be falling into a different place and time, but I wonder if you remember this time when you were talking to Mom, and you were looking for a place for work with your art, and something was happening when you were kind of thinking, is this gonna go anywhere? I think, and then the only sentence I remember. Do you remember what you said?
I said, I just want to draw.
I just want to draw.
All I want to do is draw. Well,
Yeah.
it was probably when I was in the middle of working I was doing retail, and I was
Which
trying
is
to
good, which
just-
is okay.
It's fine, but it didn't.
You want to do art.
fulfill me as a creative. I wanted to draw,
Mm.
and so, and I had just come out of school in fashion, and it was a great experience. But I think what was lacking was teaching us what comes after school, and we had kind of false expectations, thinking we're going to get out of fashion school and we're going to, have a fashion house and we're going to be these amazing designers, and, and then reality hits a little bit. I mean, as talented as everybody is, you still have to work from the ground up. So I think I was struggling with that, figuring out what am I supposed to be doing. So
And you just said, I just
want to draw.
But now
and
you're
here
drawing.
I am, and that's where whenever I have any thoughts of being ungrateful for anything, I need to remember that, and I do remember that, because here I am, I'm drawing for a living, and it's wonderful.
And it's really good work too that you're making, Faye. Well, the last thing maybe I want to ask you, maybe we can think about wrapping up. It's kind of like the ARC question.
No. Okay.
Or maybe that'll take us someplace else. But let's say there was a rocket that was going to leave the Earth because final days, and so you had to take one or two things, maybe three. Well, what would you take? Well, one. But I'm making it easy, giving you three things that you can do.
I have one.
You do? What would that be?
Coffee. That's all I need is my coffee.
Oh, oh, that's good that you brought that up because I remember all of my daughters when they were born. My mother my mother came to see them. She held them in her arms, and she dipped her finger on coffee that she had, and she put coffee on their lips.
You should probably preface that with she's from South America,
She's
and
from
that
South
was
America.
normal.
That was normal. That was normal.
Yes.
And one of the things that she learned from my mother too, is to correct me in public. So all my daughters love coffee. I think Anna also still likes coffee still,
Yes,
right?
she's back on it, yeah.
So you get kind of hooked when you didn't even know it.
Well, I was thinking about a story when I think I was 3 or 4, maybe I was 4, and we have a video of it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how much I loved coffee. And the countertop was probably like here, so I had to get on a stool, and I was pouring hot coffee
remember
in 3
that.
mugs. One for Mom, one for Dad, and one for
Yep.
me. And it was like...
A toddler putting hot searing coffee on.
But
We have a video of that.
always loved my coffee.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up then. Thank you very much, Faye, for joining us. Hope if you want to reach Faye, what is your website again?
It's Olive and Company is my business.
Yep.
And oliveandcopaper.com is the website.
Okay, Olive and Co Paper, Olive and Company, Faye.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.